Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining Cindy and I here at the Travel Collective. We've got a new collection of wonderful guides and tour operators around the world. So I'm just going to jump right in since we're a couple minutes late this morning. We've got Adrian, Melynda, and Reid. So Adrian, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us your name, where you're coming from, and just the tour that you're highlighting today.
So first of all, hello, and thank you very much for having me. It's an absolute honor for me. My name is Adrian, originally from Bulgaria. I currently reside in the lovely capital of Scotland, Edinburgh, and I am providing a tour guiding service of the old town of the city.
Beautiful. Melynda.
Good morning. My name is Melynda, and I live in Southern Oregon, and I offer a tour guiding experience in Southern Oregon, Bootleggers and Brothel Tour. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, beautiful.
Welcome, Melynda.
Reid?
Sounds like a wonderful tour to take. I'm Reid. I'm here in where America started, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My background's architecture. My tours are varied, but the one that's most popular is the Discovering Colonial Philadelphia tour, where we take you from the beginning of the colony a little bit past the Constitution. So,
Amazing. I'm
Wonderful.
So excited to hear more about all of these. Well, let's just start with the first question that we have is let's just go around and talk about a little bit about where the location, because we've heard the city. So let's just talk about, I'm assuming most of these are walking tours, but let's just talk about that. And we'll go back over to Adrian and have you share about Edinburgh and what that city is like and how much walking we do on that tour, a little bit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, Edinburgh is quite a unique and beautiful city in many senses. Few places in the world create the impression that, you know, it's as if they just sprung up or came from the ground, apart from Athens and Rome, of course, but Edinburgh most definitely creates that unique sense. It's a medieval city, which was established in the 12th century by King David I. His works were so unique that after him, they became known as the Davidian Revolution. He pretty much established the city inspired by the only royal saint in Scottish history, which is his mother, Queen Saint Margaret of Scotland. And so he did so many things. He built the castle here in 1130. He established the St. Giles Cathedral in 1124, the Holyrood Abbey, and that's where the Queen has her summer residence. And for the first time ever, by the way, introduced the monetary system. The coinage system is a main mean of trading. And so that was quite of a big time for Edinburgh. Now there's two parts to the city. There's the old town, where I do my tours, and then there's the new town, separated by what could be called as the main street of the city, Princes Street. And in the old town specifically, there's just so many things to see. It's you know, really walkable in that sense. It's quite maneuverable. There's many of these. They're called closes, which is just like a shortcut from one street going to another. And I most definitely recommend for anyone who's you know, ever been thinking to come here to most definitely do so, because this is a fountain of history, of culture, and of many other things as well.
Thanks, Adrian. Yeah,
Amazing.
you always make me want to go. So keep talking like that. That's amazing.
Yeah, you're welcome here. Really nice
Melynda, you
well.
want to tell us a little bit about the area and the town where we, there she is.
Yeah, there she is.
Where we'll be touring with you.
Sure. That really does sound interesting. That history from 1110. Oh my God, it's so amazing. I can't even imagine. So Southern Oregon is beautiful, and you know, we're the Wild West, and Oregon was put into prohibition 4 years before federal, you know, so we created quite the network bootlegging. So we talk about that. The walk is about 2 hours, and we visit some establishments and have cocktails. And we have a wonderful distillers in our area. It's really fun. That's it.
No, that
Oh
sounds
no, that sounds
great. It
amazing.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the prohibition part does give you that history of the cocktail and what was going on there, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And being 4 years ahead of the game, I mean, we really had it, and we weren't as violent as the East Coast. You know, we really.
That's good to know. Reid, tell us a little about Philly and the part of Philly that we would go with you on this tour.
Sure, but let me highly recommend Edinburgh to anyone who hasn't been there. We spent 3 days there. There's a wonderful jazz club in the old part of town too that you should definitely, well, it was there before COVID. I don't know if it's still there, and I have a wonderful Scottish hat that I bought along that that street that you were talking about that separates the old town from the new town. Anyway, back to the New World, Philadelphia. We're founded in 1682 by Englishman William Penn. And we have, the history of the Revolution and the founding of America here. We are a city where it was founded based on religious freedom. William Penn had dropped out of the Anglican Church and become a Quaker, and those were called Friends. Unfortunately, no pun intended, he didn't make a lot of friends in England because of that. And when he founded this colony, he welcomed everyone of every religion. And so unlike Massachusetts or Virginia, where you had to be one religion, everyone settles here. And to go along with the boozy part of the Oregon tour, Philadelphia had over 120 taverns in the old days. So without, we didn't drink water back then. So you could definitely get a drink here. It was perfect for Revolution. So will walk through parts of town where we'll see the oldest continuously occupied residential street in America, and then many of the historic buildings, churches, where Ben Franklin lived. Unfortunately, his grandkids tore his house down, but there's still some that remains. And Carpenter's Hall, where the first Continental Congress met, the first Bank of the United States, set up by Alexander Hamilton. I'll show people. I do a Hamilton tour as well, so everyone wants to see where Alexander Hamilton lived and where his alleged mistress lived a block away. Second bank, and then we end the tour at the Pennsylvania State House, which is Independence Hall now, where the Declaration of the United States and the Constitution were both written. The tour is pretty easy. Philadelphia is level, or mostly level. You got to watch out for some of those streets that kind of jump up and down with tree roots, but it's about a 2.5 hour tour. I tell people it's about 5,000 steps or so, and there's lots of places to sit along the way. We do it mostly rain or shine. I've done it on days that are about 19 degrees and days that are about 102 degrees. So anything's possible here in the city of brotherly love.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh my gosh, these all sound amazing.
Yeah.
So now we're going to focus, if there was one highlight, one amazing thing that you think people would experience on the tour, what would that be? And we'll start back with Adrian.
Yeah, absolutely. So my tour, by the way, lasts about 1 hour and 45 minutes, starting in front of the National Museum in Scotland, and it ends just in front of the St. Giles Cathedral on the Royal Mile. In terms of people getting impressed, it's really the architecture. First of all, it's really unique. If you have a look at the castle, you just, it's like time traveling in a sense. It just, makes you want to go back to these ages in a sense. So it's quite unique. There's also the St. Giles Cathedral. Probably one of the most touching story, I would say, is just around at the beginning of the tour, when I'm talking about the infamous Greyfriars Bobby.
Oh, yeah.
A small Skye Terrier who lived in the 19th century. There was a gentleman who around 1850 came to Edinburgh. His name was John Gray, with his wife and son, also called John, by the way. He was a gardener, but he couldn't find a job as a gardener. And so eventually he joined the police of Scotland as a night's watchman. And pretty much the story evolves around the fact that for about 3 years, Bobby, the small Skye Terrier, really brave, not caring of, whether it's during the day or the night, sunshine or rain, he would always stand by the side of his master, who passed away from tuberculosis by the 3rd year because of the lovely weather. In Edinburgh, by the way, you can see all 4 seasons in one single day. And after he passed away, he was buried in the northmost part of the Greyfriars Cemetery. From there, Bobby would go stand and guard and grieve at his grave for about 14 years in a row. Can you imagine? 14 years in a row. And then after his death, they would erect his tombstone and a lovely statue just outside of the cemetery. And so, yeah, I would say that this is probably one of the most, in a sense, heartbreaking and interesting stories for tourists to see and remember afterwards as well.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Adrian. That's a great story. And I will remember that one. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Melynda.
Well, my Southern Oregon is so interesting. A lot of quirky things have happened, very rural area. But I love telling the story of Carrie Nation, the Hatchet Granny, actually coming to visit. She was the temperance movement that they were working with prohibition to get alcohol out of American families. And she actually made a visit to Medford. And I love telling that story. We had a lot of saloons, of course, gold rush and everything, just set that right up. So that's the one.
Yeah.
Reid, do you have a highlight or what's memorable from your tour? I'm sure there's tons of things.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's memorable for most people because, people will write me. On one of my Hamilton tours, I had a 5-year-old. And when we got to his mistress's house, it was kind of like, okay, how do you explain this to a 5-year-old? So I explained that that Alexander Hamilton had a girlfriend and he was married, and you probably shouldn't have that, should you? And so I got a letter back or an email back from the woman on the tour said, my son loved the tour, and what he remembers of it is that Alexander Hamilton had a girlfriend. But, but besides those awkward situations, I think probably most people come to see the State House, right? Independence Hall. And so there's lots of stories that take place there, obviously. And I try to end the tour on a serious note that when the Constitution was finally signed and Ben Franklin had made his famous speech about the rising or setting sun on the back of the chair that George Washington sat in, I tell the story that the Rangers don't inside, that the doors open and the delegates come out with Dr. Franklin being first. And a woman at the bottom of the stairs, Elizabeth Powell, the mayor's wife, asks him, Dr. Franklin, what have you given us, a republic or a monarchy? And I answer, like he did, a republic, madam, if you can keep it. And then I bring up, of course, the attempted insurrection at the Capitol in January of 2021. And, I then make it everyone's responsibility to make sure we keep that republic that the founding fathers gave us so many years ago. And so, that historic event has shaped this country. And I hope that's what most people will remember from the tour.
Yeah. That's a great story. Thanks, Reid, for sharing that.
You're welcome.
You're a good storyteller, both of you.
It sounds really great. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very good.
And I do think that, one of the great things about these local tours is you guys, live and breathe in these places. So you have these stories and you've told them many times, and you get the little nooks and crannies of the stories. So all those folks who are listening and thinking about taking a tour, pick one of our local folks, because they're going to have the best stories and they know the best places to go.
Passion.
There's such passion. Let's ask what we need to know before we go, folks. Is there anything? I know that Reid mentioned that, you go rain or shine, totally. But we'll start with you, Adrian, is there anything that someone should know ahead of time coming into Edinburgh, or anything that they should prepare for?
Well, Cindy, as I've mentioned a bit earlier, having proper clothing is an absolute necessity here for Edinburgh, because like I said, I've seen it all. There's been days in which you have a rainbow, sunshine, and snow, whereas other days it feels as if it's like a scorcher outside. And so, yeah, that's one of the things that people should most definitely consider before coming here. Other than that, the city is, as I said, quite unique and quite nice. So people should prepare to have lots of fun, because you would be able to, there's a tram, by the way, from the airport, which leads all the way to the city. Lothian buses are considered to be, as a company, one of the most time accurate buses and company worldwide, for that matter. So the transport is quite punctual, quite quite comfortable as well. In terms of eating, for example, one can most definitely try the unique haggis, which, as you know, is the pudding made from the liver, heart, and lungs of a sheep. There's also the iron brew,
awesome.
which is a carbonated drink. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of it or not. And then there's the whiskey, of course, which is a kind of a symbol of Scotland. I think that it was first introduced and brewed around the 15th century. And there's just so many things to see. There's the Camera Obscura just before the castle, where you go inside and you get your reflection skewed by all sorts of different mirrors. There's some lovely restaurants. There's a couple of big shopping malls in the downtown area. The new town is also quite impressive. There's many things to see and do there. And finally, I would say that it would also depend on the time of year, because if you come here in August, let's say, you would be able to experience the magnificent Fringe Festival, where artists and performers are coming from all over the world to deliver a truly unique and interesting experience. And so that's pretty much it. Just prepare to have lots of fun, and make sure you have an umbrella for sure.
I love it.
Oh, that's good. Fun and an umbrella, a nice combo.
Yeah.
What do we need to know before we go, or how do we prepare to enjoy Southern Oregon?
Oh, it's the same. Dress in layers, because I've watched it snow and rainbow and everything on the same day. If you like wine, be prepared for that. Be prepared for beautiful scenery, and just gorgeous trees and wonderful food. We have a great agricultural system also. It's just awesome here. Hiking, running, walking, all that. So we have the Great Crater Lake. So there's that.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So be prepared to get out and see nature. Get some boots to walk in the dirt. It sounds like that's right up my alley, Melynda. I'm all in.
Yep. Dig up your own bait to go fishing.
Sounds fun. Great. Reid, what do we need to know before coming to Philly with you?
Yeah, so well, as the other guides have mentioned, there's no bad weather. There's just bad clothing, right? Yeah. So you need to pay attention. I've had people from Florida or Southern California get here, and it's 40 degrees out, and they have not dressed properly, and it makes it very, very difficult. One other thing about Edinburgh that I would recommend, that we discovered last minute, I think there's a gin distillery in the Newtown section, and it was booked solid. So if you like gin, I would definitely make sure to book that distillery way before you get there. And the same thing for Philadelphia. So we're the only World Heritage City in America, and we get crazy busy. Just yesterday I was doing tours, and I have never seen so many people on the streets, not even before COVID. So travel here has gotten crazy. There are a lot of things that require tickets, which we don't go into on my tours because there's just not enough time. But if you want to visit Independence Hall, for example, you need a timed ticket. Recreation.gov is the site to do that. Of course, you do that for getting into some of the national parks as well. So definitely prepare for that. If you want to see the Liberty Bell, I recommend when to get in line for that. We have an amazing food scene here in Philadelphia. We are a foodie city, and we have the most bizarre alcohol laws here in Pennsylvania. I won't even begin to discuss them, but small restaurants can't afford liquor licenses. And so we have BYOBs, bring your own bottle. So there are lots of those, but some of them are only 30 or 40 seats. So you know, if you want to eat at certain places, make sure that you book ahead. If there's certain things you want to see ahead of time, book ahead. And yes, check the weather, because there is a big difference between 40 degrees and 60 degrees. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting, those alcohol laws.
Yeah, I saw Melynda's
it's-
face. I was like, we
it's
have a
just-
couple in California too.
it's crazy. It's just insane. So
Yeah.
Wow.
A restaurant that allows you to bring your own or encourages you to bring your own.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I remember the first time somebody did that, and I was like, you can bring your own bottle of wine? That's so weird. And it's economically, it works out well. They, you can, you don't pay for the restaurant price, but it's something you don't think about, Reid, right? That you
Right.
can't go to the restaurant and order a glass of wine or order a cocktail because they just simply don't have it.
Right. We were at a restaurant the other night that was a BYOB, a high-end one, and we had brought 2 bottles of wine that we didn't finish, obviously. Well, hopefully, obviously. So, and 2 guys came in from California. They sounded like restaurateurs, and they went to order a glass of wine, and the guy said, "I'm sorry." And so as we were getting ready to leave, we gifted them the remains of our bottles, so that they would at least be able to have a drink or something. So yeah, be prepared. So
Do the restaurants charge a corking fee?
no, and they used to do that, and then it's like, no one's going to do that. And then some restaurants, it's fun. Some give you a water glass to put your wine in, and some have fine crystal that are, again, BYOB. So it's all over the place. It makes it a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
Wow.
it's an adventure, right, Reid?
it is, absolutely, always.
I'd be over there shaking it at my table.
Right.
Cocktail making.
Wow, these places all sound amazing, and we're getting down to the end. Adding on to the trip, what are some things people might do before or after your trip? We'll start with Adrian, and I know Edinburgh is full of things to do before and after, but maybe is there anything in the surrounding countryside that you want to share, or?
Yeah, most definitely. In Edinburgh, there's the infamous Arthur Seat. And sometimes people just after the tour, if they have enough energy, they just like to book a next tour or just go on their own and climb all the way to the top. And honestly, there's some amazing and spectacular views from there, which, it's absolutely worth it to do it. Another thing I would recommend is Roslin, which is quite close to Edinburgh. I think you can go there with bus X37, and it's quite unique because first of all, there's the Roslin Institute, where Dolly, the first cloned mammal, the sheep ever in history of humanity, was cloned back in the 1990s. Technically done by a German team, but because it was done on the territory of Scotland, it's considered to be a Scottish invention. And so you'll be able to check out that. And also there's also something else which is quite unique. Many people don't know about it, but it's Roslin Chapel. It's an absolutely unique chapel where they used to have a symbol. He was called William the Chapel Cat, but he passed away some time ago. So now I think there's a new one. Part of the Da Vinci Code movie was shot in Roslin Chapel, and so they have a unique underground vault as well. The architecture inside, it's quite beautiful, especially the details and everything else. But pretty much just as my tours go to the end, and as we end, people like to just chill out a little bit because of the walking. I would assume they just like to go and grab some whiskey, or just go to a restaurant to get some pizza, burger, something to warm them up on chilly days. And before that, sometimes people do another tour. The Harry Potter tour is quite popular here in Edinburgh as well. And that's another thing worth mentioning, that people like to do a lot of research on that, because as you would have probably heard, J.K. Rowling used to reside here. She would write some parts of the novel in the Elephant's House, which is now, by the way, closed due to fire from August last year. I've seen people play Quidditch once here in Edinburgh, the sport with the brooms. I was walking by a park, and next thing you see people with robes and just throwing these specific balls, like in rugby, for example, playing Quidditch. So Edinburgh has had quite an impact on that entire saga in particular. So people like to do all different things.
Yeah. Not at a loss, are we, Adrian, for something to do?
Melynda.
Absolutely.
Oh, they can go to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, which is fantastic. In Ashland, there's again Crater Lake. It's just an outdoor mecca,
right.
Hiking, all of that.
Okay. Sounds beautiful. I think getting up and going to Crater Lake or see the sunrise and then come do a tour with you sounds like a day.
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
Oh, there's a cheese trail. I mean, we have
cool
farms all. Oh yeah, it's incredible. It's very like I said, rural, but it's beautiful.
Sounds lovely. Reid, what would we do before or after or the day after? What do you got out there in Philly? Again, probably not at a loss for things to do.
No, so a lot of people cheat Philadelphia. So it's sort of a stop for them between New York and Washington. And they don't realize we're the 6th largest city in the country, even though we're only 1.25 million people. But you really should give Philadelphia 3, maybe even 4 days of time.
Wow.
I'm about to do a tour in an hour that's my Exploring the Gilded Age, which is the architecture from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. And there's just amazing architecture in the center of town. The Art Museum, the Philadelphia Museum of Art, you could spend an entire day there as well. The Museum of the American Revolution, if you're not sick of hearing me talk about it after the tour, it is a wonderful experience. And then I have people, I don't do the tours, but a lot of people want to go to the Amish country that's west of the city in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, to see the buggies and how they live out there. And there are tours out in that area. One that I haven't taken yet, but is fascinating sounding, is that someone has built as the Jews move through the desert, now that it's Passover, as the Jews moved through the desert for 40 years, they took the Ark of the Covenant with them, and they would build an entire compound that was described in the Torah very vividly. And so someone has built this whole thing out there in Lancaster, and you can visit this and see what it looked like. So I haven't personally seen it yet, but yeah, that's it. And West Philadelphia, if you get over there where the University of Pennsylvania and Drexel are located, there's some amazing new architecture on campus. And then there's, again, a lot of wonderful Victorian architecture. Fairmount Park, the cemetery, Laurel Hill Cemetery, there's just, you just can't do Philadelphia in 2 hours. And then, of course, the tourist attraction that I love to hate, or hate to love, is the Rocky statue at the Art Museum. Of course, everyone has to get a picture at the Rocky statue. So it's sort of silly, but it's sort of one of the #1 tourist attractions here. So anyway.
Can't come to Philly and
you get a lot of people running
you gotta,
up the stairs.
you gotta do that. Yeah. It drives me crazy, but
Sometimes we just get silly. Well,
Right.
so we are over, but let's just go around real quick and find out. Tell us how much your tour is. We now know how long they are and where we can find you on the big internet, where we can find the tours. Adrian, can you help us with that? How much is your tour and where can we find it?
Yeah, sure. First of all, so my tour could be found on a couple of different platforms. There is Guru Walk, which is a Spanish-based company in Valencia. If one is to go to Guru Walk and book a tour from there, it's actually a free tour, which means that it's based on tips. And so the guests are able to evaluate the experience received at the end of the tour by tipping the guide. So if you go to guruwalk.com, you'll be able to find my business Alpha Mega Tours there.
Okay.
And then I can be found on a couple of other platforms. These are Viator and getyourguide.com. And there I have a price. There's 14 pounds per person, but the amount could go a little bit down if there's obviously infants or youths attending the tour as well. So yeah, it's either tip based, depending on whether or not you would book a tour from Guru Walk, or if it's from another platform, there is a price of 14 pounds per person.
Perfect. Thanks, Adrian. And Melynda, where do we find you?
I don't go on any platforms. You can find me on Instagram or on my website.
Okay.
And I probably should get out there a little bit more. But and the tours are 52, but that includes everything.
Okay.
Wow.
All the food and drinks, all that.
All that. And what's the website, Melynda, so we can get people to find you?
Oh, it's hustlesouthernoregon.com.
Okay, perfect. We'll put that in our description. And Reid, how much and where do we find you?
So it depends on the kind of tour you want. My public tours, you can find, and my private tours on my website, which I call Philly Phat, PHILLY-PHAT, which stands for Philadelphia Historic Architecture Tours. And you can also find me on Airbnb, Get Your Guide, TripAdvisor, Viator. The price for those per person public tours is $40 for the 2.5 hours. I also offer a private version. So if you have young children, I try to limit it to 10 years old. Of course, everyone says my 8-year-old is well behaved, but we know. So as guides, we know. So if you have, a lot of younger children, I suggest a private tour. And then a lot of people just don't want to share tours. My wife and I don't always like sharing tours. So we will book, can be found either on my website or Tours by Locals. Also is one of the places where my tours are offered as private tours. And then the price is a little bit different depending on where you book it. I try to make it a little more affordable on my website because, as we know as guides and the general public, that the platforms that represent our tours also take a percentage of the tour. So we have to charge a little more because they take a little bit. And so anyway.
That's why we always say try to book direct.
Right.
Cindy and I try to preach to people, just book direct, contact each of you guys direct if you've got questions before you arrive, like suggestions on maybe what part of the city to stay in, all of that. So these are great. All of you are wonderful people to connect with. So we want to encourage just emailing you, Adrian, directly, and getting your input even before I arrive to get those extra tips.
Yeah, while they're planning the trip. Yep. Yeah, that's what we really hope, that we can kind of bring that. Because when you want to go to a place like Philly, you don't know what to start with. And you might book that 2-hour tour with Reid, but you don't know what part of the town to stay in. As you said, where do I get my hotel? Or is there a good place to, you're celebrating something, you want to go out to eat. Reid would be a resource. He'll be happy to tell you where to go, where to eat, or where's the best view.
Or where to go.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
all of those things. Yeah. So I think these kinds of connections that we're offering, again, that's one of the reasons we wanted to do Let's Talk Travel on Saturday morning, to get people to get to know local tour guides. So I think we're good, right? We've covered
Yeah.
everything, April?
Yes, I think we're good. So thank you
right.
everyone for joining us. Did you see any questions pop up or?
I didn't. No, not this morning. But we're good. I think that people will come in and put your comments, even though you didn't, if folks are not watching us live, if you're watching this recorded, drop your comments here in our channel. We'll be happy to answer them for you. And we're going to put in our description the contact information for all of our folks here.
Yep. So we'll be doing this.
Wonderful.
We'll be doing this again in 2 weeks. So we'll hope you'll join Cindy and I and meet some other guides that can help you plan some amazing experiences. So thank you so much. Thank you, Adrian, Melinda, and Reid for giving your time this morning. And
You're welcome.
hope your spring
Thank
is
you.
wonderful. So take
It
care.
was nice to meet you. It was nice to
Yes.
meet both of you. Now I want to
Nice
go to
to meet you guys,
Philadelphia.
too.
I know. We'll
Yeah,
stay in
nice to meet you, all of you.
touch.
All right.
And if I ever go
bye-bye.
to any of these places, I'll be more than happy to, reach out to you to
Yes,
get this amazing
please do.
experience. Thank you.
Yes. All right.
Wonderful.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks,
You as well.
everyone.
Have a great
day.
Saturday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.